Hello and welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 8th January 2026. Here we have taken up important news and article from The Hindu and Indian Express newspaper and segregated our discussion into two parts, that is the analysis and simplified. In analysis section, the first article is related to antimicrobial resistance, as PM Modi in his latest edition of Mann Ki Baat raised this issue and has brought this issue to the public debate. The second article is related to India's achievement in climate pledges. Now, 2025 marked 10th year of the Paris climate deal. So, this article relates to assessment of India's achievement regarding the climate pledges that it had made in the Paris climate deal. Both of these discussions are followed by two mains practice questions, so stay tuned. The topic for simplified section are listed here. They will cover important information related to prelims examination and some fodder for your mains answer writing also. So let us begin our discussion. So let us begin the discussion with the first article of today's session, that is fine-tune the signal to sharpen India's AMR battle. What is the signal? Signal is that Prime Minister Modi for the first time in public domain spoke about antimicrobial resistance in his latest edition of the Mann Ki Baat, which happened in December 2025. Now, according to author, Prime Minister talking about AMR and calling it a very serious issue or concerning issue will bring this topic to the public debate, which was warranted. And in this article, author has highlighted several issues. So, what we are going to cover? We are going to cover what is the concept of AMR, that is antimicrobial resistance, and what are the challenges, how it happens, what India is doing, what else needs to be done, and along with that we will also include the suggestion by the author. Important from GS paper 2 perspective, that is health. So first thing first, as the name suggests, what is the name? Antimicrobial resistance. Now what is it? Now antimicrobials, these are the medicines which include antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal and antiparasitic. Now these medicines are given to fight infection caused due to parasite, bacteria, virus, fungal infection, etc. But if you are taking it in an indiscriminate quantity, if you are taking them without any prescription, without any consultation with doctors, with time, because this is a natural process, as you can see here, the resistance is a natural process. So these pathogens have a tendency to create a resistance against that particular drug. So what happens? After some time, they become resistant to the drugs. So when in future a person will be affected with this infection, these drugs will be futile. These drugs will not be helpful in curing the symptoms. So this is what the antimicrobial resistance means. So start with the resistant strain. Gradually what happens? It spreads, antibiotic resistance spreads, and after some time the body becomes completely resistant to any line of drugs. So then it becomes difficult for doctors to cure the symptoms, and sometimes it proves fatal also. So it is a natural process, but problem is that was highlighted in the Mann Ki Baat itself, that this natural process is accelerated by human activity. So what are these human activities? So just think about this. Even in common cold and flu, even in normal stomach upset, even in normal fever, we simply go to medical shop, will ask for an antibiotic along with the medicine by telling the symptom, and you will start taking antibiotic. And this is the major and most important cause of spreading of this antimicrobial resistance, which we will refer AMR in this discussion. So over a time, your body develops a resistance, and once it is required the most, your body will not respond to any medicine, because now these pathogens have developed the resistance against that particular drug. So we have accelerated the natural process. Now, why it is important, why people are saying that PM talking about this is a very important thing? Because of the gravity of the situation, because of the issue, because now we are discussing this. Earlier, it was simple a matter of concern for strategists, analysts, policy makers, and the doctors, mainly doctors and hospitals. But the problem is being aggravated by commoners like us. Indiscriminate use, regular use, overdose, improper dose, all these are contributing, and the situation has blown out of proportion. Like, if you can see the WHO data, it is one of the top global public health and developmental threat, causing 1.27 million direct death in 2019, while contributing to 4.95 million death in total. Plus, if you will see that Lancet study here, it has given a projection that right now in 2021, it caused around 4.7 million death. It is going to increase the estimate that it is going to double by 2050. So 8.2 million people will be victim of AMR if things go like this. Issue with India is that time and again WHO and other organizations have raised concern that South Asia, especially India, is becoming hub, a hotspot of AMR. Like we have heard about cancer, the same is the situation for AMR, that India is becoming hub. So if you will see this data, you will find countries like Western Sub-Saharan, Eastern Sub-Saharan, Central Sub-Saharan, and Southern Sub-Saharan, basically Sub-Saharan Africa we are talking. Just after that, it is South Asia, which includes India also. So death per lakh population is highest in South Asia, including India, just after the Sub-Saharan Africa. If you will look at the Indian scenario, ICMR, through its surveillance network, this is a network where they collect and collate the data from their centers and designated centers, and then they decide that how much, what is the gravity of the situation, how much the situation has worsened. According to them, the issue is concerning again, because according to them, there is an increasing trend of resistance for major antibiotics like imipenem, a last line drug for multi-drug resistance, last line drug. So once all the front line drugs, second line drug, all of them are over, this is last line drug. And E. coli, a pathogen which causes basically gut related problems, diarrhea, the urinary tract infection, sepsis. Now this E. coli, if you will consider 2016 to 2021, just 5 years, the resistance has grown from 14 to 36%. Next, based on these findings, the ICMR has said that routine antibiotics are becoming ineffective at a faster pace. So we talked about imipenem, which is a kind of last line drug, but routine antibiotics are ineffective as of now. So what is the cause? What is the reason behind such a high rate of occurrence of AMR? The first reason is, we have already discussed, the irrational use of antibiotics in humans. Now, this is simple to access. Access is simple. Generally, people go directly, they will ask for an antibiotic and they will get it from the pharmacist, combining it with some other B complex tablet, and the treatment is on. So the first is irrational use of antibiotic in humans. So we are taking them anytime, anywhere, and for anything without concerning specialists that whether we need or not. Gradually, it becomes a very normal thing. It is same like you are having a food very often, so that becomes a norm for you, that your body becomes accustomed to that food. You can digest that food very easily. Same happens with medicine. If you are very frequent with intake, the pathogens will develop a resistance, and then it will become an ineffective thing. You are just having it like a external agency, nothing else. Then COVID-19 had a huge impact. If you can recall, right now what we are doing, we are going for the antibiotic when we are having symptom. During COVID times, in those 2 to 3 years, antibiotics were taken as a preventive measure. So everyone was taking antibiotic as a preventive measure, so that securing yourself from attracting the infection or COVID-19. So that period, 3-year period, heavy doses of antibiotics without consulting doctors, anything which was circulated on WhatsApp or internet, people just went to the medical shops and started having this. So COVID-19 had a huge impact on this antibiotic consumption. Then it is not just human consumption, but also in the field of agriculture and animal husbandry. So in them, similar to the case of the humans, like we use it as an antibiotic to treat some symptom. Apart from this, to treat some symptom, they are also being used as a growth supplement in agriculture and animal husbandry. So if you will see, colistin, a last line drug, again a last line drug, is being used as a poultry feed. Similarly, streptomycin, multi-drug resistant TB drug, tuberculosis drug, is being used as a growth promoter in fruits and vegetable, streptomycin and colistin. Now, if you are using them in fruit, vegetable, poultry product, meat products, milk products, where it is going to come back? The food chain, you are going to take the intake. So that is the next problem, that direct consumption is itself problematic. Now you are taking it through the food chain also. Then comes the contamination from pharmaceutical and hospital. Several research have found that hospitals and pharmaceutical hubs, the streams and rivers are heavily contaminated with this antibiotic drugs and chemicals related to them. Again, these streams and rivers are part of this ecosystem, and somehow they are affecting the biological entities like fish, phytoplanktons, and in return you are consuming it in some form or the other. Then comes incomplete or improper treatment courses. What does that mean? Simple. You have been given, doctor has asked you to take a course of, let's say, 10 days, but your symptoms are gone in 6 days. Now, you yourself will just skip the last 4 doses. You will say, now I am fine, no need to take 4 more medicine, because suddenly the wisdom will come in and you will say, I am not a believer of taking too much medicine. So on one hand, you are taking medicine without consulting doctors. On other hand, you are stopping the treatment without consulting the doctor, just by saying, now symptoms are gone, I don't need the medicine anymore. Now this improper doses, again, because the pathogens have not been eliminated completely, and those pathogens who are left behind will create a resistance. So again and again, if you are breaking the treatment course, you are inviting the resistance. Lastly, poor hygiene, sanitation and infection control, not directly but indirectly, because poor hygiene maintenance, poor sanitation and poor infection control, timely intervention is not there. You are inviting the infection altogether, and again the same cycle, vicious cycle will start, that you are going to take medicine and then the resistance. And then there is a weak surveillance plus regulatory oversight. So prescription norms are not being enforced properly. Surveillance is very much centralized. Very few centers are there from where data is being collected. If to be precise, major centers are government hospitals, majorly located in big cities. So basically, tertiary healthcare sector or is included, while primary and other the tier 2 cities are eliminated from the data. So basically, data set is skewed. So surveillance is weak, and the regulatory oversight regarding the prescription, regarding the selling, regarding the packaging is weak. Again, the enforcement is also weak. Additionally, what author says, as I have already told you, that this domain, the drug resistance, was a matter of concern for doctors, especially doctors, policymakers, and hospitals. For the first time, PM talking about this. Now, the main constituent of this issue, the public, now first time people will be thinking and talking about it. So according to author, this was another issue, because this issue was being discussed only in certain spheres, not in public domain. So again, the awareness was not there. People were doing their things, people were taking medicine without being aware about the consequences. So this step is a step, you can say, a move in a right direction and very encouraging. Moving further, it is not like India is not doing something. India has been doing persistently, like Schedule H and H1 regulation, where it has given the specific direction, like special labeling, mandatory sales register, prescription only sales, record which is kept for 3 years, and 24 high-end antimicrobials are included in this list. However, again, the regulation, the implementation is very weak, oversight is very weak. National Action Plan on AMR, which One Health concept, if you are aware of it. So this is concept of WHO, which says, as you have seen, you are consuming it directly, application in animals, application in vegetable, water is being polluted. So basically what WHO said, that this resistance can be fought with, or you can conquer this only once you have One Health strategy. So basically what is One Health? That you cannot take things in silos. So human health, animal health, climate, environment, that is, all three should be taken care of in an integrated manner, and this is what it is, the National Action Plan on AMR, which takes human health, animal health, agriculture and environment together. It covers, it promotes the integrated way of thought process and policy making. Then Delhi Declaration on AMR, Red Line campaign, again marking and packaging, making awareness in the buyers that this is something which you are crossing the line, this is second line drug, this is last line drug. So making buyers aware. Then the National Center for Disease Control, and this is the nodal agency for AMR monitoring and supports the state and monitors implementation of National Action Plan on AMR. Further, AMR surveillance network, which we spoke about, is initiative of ICMR, so kind of compilation and collation of data. Antimicrobial stewardship program, again ICMR led program, which provides guideline for hospitals, promotes appropriate prescription practices. Lastly, National One Health Mission, which is Government of India initiative in line with the WHO's suggestion, which links human, animal, environment health together in an integrated manner. What else needs to be done? Answer is very simple. You need to expand and decentralize the surveillance. So tertiary, the surveillance should go beyond urban and tertiary hospital. It should go to the rural level. Primary healthcare should be covered. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities should be covered. Only then you can get the correct picture of the gravity of the situation or the spread of the resistance. Second, since the largest percentage of patients are being treated by the private healthcare institutions, so you need to include them in your surveillance system. It should not be restricted to government hospitals. Then You need to improve the data quality and coverage. So number of sentinel sites, again, including more hospital, more center, ensure informed reporting standards. So it should not be varying from state to state, but a uniform reporting standard and time should be maintained. Then like ICMR surveillance system, there is a WHO surveillance system which we know as WHO GLASS. It is related to antimicrobial resistance. So you need to use digital platform so that you can share the data with WHO and vice versa. It will help you to pick up the global practices and will help you to contain the situation. Then promote rational prescription of antibiotic through standard treatment guidelines, which is already there. Basically, you need to impose implementation should be made more robust and dynamic. Then public awareness campaigns should be there, because this is the first time that Prime Minister is talking about that, and he has termed it as a matter of concern, and he has rightly picked up the point that we are the main cause of spread of it. So such awareness should be established, more debates, talks, and this should become the course of regular debate. Then research and innovation, you need to find alternative also. You cannot sit idle just for the, you can say that dependence on antibiotics should be removed, and different kind of like phage therapy should be used, where infected bacteria is killed by virus. So such alternatives should be tried, alternative mechanisms should be improved, so that dependence on antibiotics can be minimized. Then infection should be minimized, so strengthen the WASH. And finally, funding, implementation and monitoring. It should be sustained and regular affair. It should not change time to time. It should be the primary objective and policy, you can say, priority of the government, and it should be consistent. Only then we can contain such a problematic situation. Based on this is your practice question, that antimicrobial resistance has emerged as a major public health challenge in India. Discuss the key factor contributing to AMR and suggest a strategy to mitigate this health crisis in India. A 15-marker to 50-word question, try to attempt it. The second news article is related to climate targets. Basically, 2025 marks 10th year of the Paris climate deal that happened in 2015. So this article kind of examines the achievement of India vis-a-vis the pledges it had made in Paris climate deal, not in Glasgow. So according to this article, the country has successfully reduced emission and intensity and increased non-fossil power capacity, which is true, factual. But challenges remain in translating these achievements into absolute emission reduction. Important from the perspective of GS paper 3, environment conservation. So here we will see what article talks about regarding how the capacity intensity has reduced, but overall emission has not. Plus how the installed capacity has been improved, but it has not translated into the production. Thirdly, the carbon sequestration targets. Basically, this article discusses the qualitative versus quantitative aspect of the carbon sequestration. So we will cover all these along with the way forward suggested by this article and some other thing. But before that, try to understand a very basic concept. Then we will proceed with the understanding. What is the meaning of saying that emission intensity has reduced, but absolute emission has increased. Now take an example. Let's say a factory was there which was producing 10 units of anything that whatever entity or whatever it is producing, manufacturing. So 10 unit it is producing. And how much carbon it is emitting? Let's say 10 unit. So for every unit of production, it was emitting 1 unit of carbon earlier. Now intensity has reduced. Now due to some clean energy, due to some new technology, due to some other technological upgradation and the process upgradation, now for every unit of production, this factory is producing 5 unit of carbon for every unit. So earlier 10 unit of carbon for every unit of production. So basically 100 unit of carbon was produced. Now it has reduced the intensity. Now only 5 unit of carbon is being produced. But economy is growing. Company is growing. Now company is not producing 10 unit. Company is producing 30 units. Company is producing 30 units because time has passed, economy has grown, the company has grown. So earlier it was producing 10 units. So 10 unit into 10 unit, 100 unit of carbon emission. Now intensity reduced but production increased. So basically the absolute emission increased 150 unit. So earlier 100 unit, now 150 unit. So yes, you have reduced intensity, but you have increased the absolute emission. This is what the basic concept behind the first part of discussion is. Now, before moving further, let us revise what were the target that India pledged in Paris summit, that is COP21. It committed that it will reduce emission intensity by 33 to 35%. So base year, that we will take the base year of 2005. So let's say intensity was 100. So we will try to reduce it by 33 to 35%. That is 33 to 35% of 100 by 2030. This is what India committed. Then it has also committed that 40% of power will be generated from non-fossil fuel source. Then it also committed 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022. Plus it committed that it will achieve 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon sequestration through forest. Now not just 2.5 to 2.5 to 3 billion tons more than what it was sequestrating in 2005. So additional 2.5 to 3 billion ton. So these were the target which was renewed in Glasgow COP26. So we know that in Glasgow we set a target of 500 gigawatt by 2030. Earlier it was 175 in 2022. Now it is 500 gigawatt by 2030. Earlier it was 40% by renewable, now it is 50%. Emission we said 33 to 35 by 2030. But since we have reduced by 1 billion tons from now through 2030, and carbon intensity of its economy will be brought down to less than 45%, and India will achieve its target of net zero by 2070. So this is what the renewed targets were, but we have to focus on COP21, that what we pledged and how far we reached. So the positive signs, many positives. Basically in numbers we fared better than any other country, if you can say in one line. So taking the baseline of 2005, emission intensity 33, the target was 33. We decreased it by 36. If you can see this graph, it is more than 35%. So we have already achieved by 2020, while target was 2030, 33 to 35, but we have already achieved 36% by 2020, and it is better than G20 average, China and USA. This is percentage in case. So India were decreased it by 36% roughly. G20 country average hovers around 25%, China roughly around 17%, while US roughly around 20%. So India fared better than any other G20 contemporary. Next, this has been achieved on the back of, or you can say this could have been, the emission was reduced, because how would you reduce the emission if you will use clean energy? So non-fossil fuel power. So basically we achieved 43% of target by 2023, and now we have crossed 50%. This is, we are talking about installed capacity. So now we have crossed 50% in 2025. Now, India's economic composition also shifted from heavy industries, electricity dependent industries, to more digital based economy, IT sector, services sector, hospitality, all these sectors which are not that heavy consumer of electricity. So when demand is going down, so the production, the intensity will also, the release of carbon dioxide into atmosphere will also go down. So this was the second reason why we were able to achieve it before time. Lastly, government own push. So government gave us several incentives. Government brought in several initiatives for better efficiency, using clean energy, promoting clean energy. So like perform, achieve and trade, PAT. So for private sector enterprises, this was initiated by Bureau of Energy and Efficiency. So what they did, they set a target that you need to control your emission under this limit. So if company controls its emission at a lower level, for this gap they will get a certificate, which they can trade with a company who is unable to contain the emission in this limit. So basically incentivizing those who are bringing in new technology to reduce the emission. So PAT, Ujala, promoting individual consumers to use energy efficient lights, fans and everything. So these were the basically in crux. Government also gave boost to use of clean energy sources and clean energy mediums. So all these three combined, and that is how we were able to achieve 36%. Now problem is what I have told you at the beginning, that yes, intensity reduced, but absolute numbers, if you will see, it has increased. So if you will see, in 2020, the greenhouse gas emission was roughly around 3000 metric ton carbon dioxide equivalent, which is still the same. It has not reduced. Plus, the reason behind this, growing economy, growing population, infrastructure and industry expanding, energy demand is rising. So what the term has been used, partial decoupling. Now what is decoupling? So generally the coupling is, once your GDP will grow, once your economy will grow, your emission will grow. Okay, so economy is growing, emission is growing. This is coupling. Emission and economy are coupled. So what was the need? Complete decouple, that you should grow your economy based on clean energy, your emission should not grow. But here what happened? Partial decoupling happened. So GDP or economy grew at the faster rate than the emission. Yes, it is true. Installed capacity increased, users increased, everything. So emission was reduced when compared to GDP, but emission is still growing because need is there. So company reduced the intensity, but production has increased, demand has increased, population has increased, number of company has increased. So this is the reason that there is a partial decoupling, not complete decoupling, and that is why absolute numbers are not going down. Second is, national average is masking sectoral divergence. This is another problem. So take one example to understand. Let's say there are 5 brothers who are earning in a joint family. One brother is earning in crores, doing very good. 2 are doing fairly good, earning in lakhs. Next, the remaining are not doing that good. But if you will take the average, overall it will look good, because one person is leading by a far margin. So he is earning in crores, while the next 2 are earning in lakhs. So these three will compensate for the next two. Even if they are not doing that good, the overall average you will find is good, or fairly not good, then average. That okay, their household income is fine. They are living in a good house, they are moving, they have their own vehicle, they have all the amenities. So at face of it, it looks good. But if you will see sector wise, not everything is good. So heavy industries are still dependent on coal power plant, thermal power plant. We have taken this discussion that because of the intermittency of the renewable energy, non-regular nature of the renewable energy, still heavy industries are relying on coal power thermal plant and coal sourced energy. And this is why the heavy industries like construction, vehicle number, and the cement industry, steel industry, all these industries are still relying on fossil fuel based power. So overall growth number, the increase in renewable energy, clean energy, installed capacity, they are masking the sectoral divergence. This is another problem. Yes, so this is what the main problem is. Now moving next, that the next problem, the first problem was related to the emission intensity versus the absolute number. The next problem is related to the gap, installed capacity and the generation capacity. So if you will see installed capacity, it is more than 50%. It is around 51%. But if you will see the power generation, it is roughly 20%. So still we are dependent on coal. In numbers, if you will see, the installed capacity has grown up from 29 to 51%, and primary driver is solar power and hydropower. But you will see that the production capacity, the generation capacity is just 20%. We are still relying on coal heavily. So this growth in installed capacity gives you headline policy success. So in numbers, India achieved its 40% non-fossil fuel capacity target, which was set in Paris Climate Deal, that we will achieve 40% by 2030. So we crossed this before 2030. This helped because installed capacity surpassed 50% in 2025, target was 2030. So we have surpassed, the headline policy success is there, but in literal term it is not there. The generation capacity is very low. Generation capacity is very low and we are still dependent on coal. So 22% of electricity generation by non-fossil fuel, more than 70% of electricity generation is still from the coal. Next thing, there is a storage deficit that we need. The Central Electricity Authority tells that we need 336 gigawatt hour of storage by 2030. And how much we have? Roughly 500 megawatt. We need 300 gigawatt, we have 500 megawatt. Okay. Plus grid and land constraint, especially in solar and wind power. So grid connection, the evacuation of power, the seamless flow of electricity, generation and supply has been established. Same is the constraint with the land acquisition and protest and issues persist with solar and wind power plant especially. Now moving further, it is not just about 70% of electricity. Roughly 50% is being produced, the installed capacity if we will talk, it includes solar, wind, hydro, micro hydro, gas, everything. But if you will take coal, alone coal is producing 240 to 253 gigawatt of power, the installed capacity, and their production share is much higher than the renewable. So again, one source is still dominating the entire landscape. So 175 gigawatt of renewable target that we set in Paris deal by 2022, we have missed that. Now we have advanced it, or we have raised the bar, and we have targeted 500 gigawatt by 2030. So technically they say that installed capacity, if you will keep on increasing this, you may end up achieving, you might end up achieving it. But what is the point? If you are not generating enough, then the qualitative and quantitative debate remains. So again, the first issue, that net emission is going down, but absolute emission is not. Second is that you have created installed capacity, headline policy success is there, but generation capacity is not there. You are merely producing 20% of the total power mix. Third is, according to the article, that carbon sequestration is only on paper. He basically he questions the qualitative aspect of it. So he quotes that India, in his ISFR report in 2023, India said that we have already increased the carbon sequestration by 2.29 billion. So target was 2.5 to 3. So roughly few point, you can say 0.2 billion is remaining to achieve the carbon sink target. We have already achieved 2.29 billion ton over 2005 level. So we have to achieve 2.5. So roughly to 0.2 billion we need to add. But here author raises a question that definition of forest cover itself is problematic, because you say that any land which is greater than 1 hectare with 10% of tree canopy, you will call it a forest. So a tea estate is a forest. You can say a mango orchard is a forest for you if it is fulfilling this. Roadside tree plantation is a forest for you. So the qualitative forest is not there. So you are covering anything under forest just to manage or just to give the report that forest cover is increasing. That is why if you will see here, the jump in forest cover is around 16,000 square kilometer, around 16,000 square kilometer from 2013 to 2023. But author says that this growth is not uniform. So if you will see growth from 2021 to 2023, it is just 156 square kilometer. If you will go further back, you will find that from 2019 to 2021, in 2-year time, it is also marginal, roughly around 1000 or 1500 square kilometer. Again, around 600 square kilometer per year. So experts say that when you are increasing such a small amount of forest with such a broad definition, how you are increasing the sink? They are questioning the quality of the sink altogether. Then they also point out that out of overall the mix of the forest, very dense forest is just 3%. So they are saying you are increasing the sequestration in billion tons. How is it possible when the forest cover is so low? It is increasing at a snail's pace. Even when you have given a liberal definition, you are covering anything as a forest. How it is covering? Then he also raises that CAMPA fund, that is compensatory afforestation fund, remains underutilized. He gives example of Delhi. In 3 years, only 23% of the fund allocated to Delhi was used. Then the main focus of CAMPA fund, the compensatory afforestation, which is there under the Green India mission, which was revised, focus is on Aravalli Hills, Western Ghat, Himalaya. That is fine. These are fragile region. But focus is on plantation, not regeneration. So they are focusing on plantation and not regeneration. So author says that plantation can store carbon, but they will not store the ecosystem. So this is not a sustainable thing. So again, you are focusing on quantity, headline success, not quality. Then satellite images shows that greening is increasing, more leaf cover is there. But the global warming and water stresses are impacting the overall functioning of plant. How? if global warming will increase, the plants will face the distress and they will pause the photosynthesis, and through respiration they will release CO2. Similarly, if water stress is there, the stomata is closed in order to save the water, and again photosynthesis will be, the process will be down, stomata is closed, again the CO2 emission will be there, lesser CO2 will be taken up by the plants. So in both the cases, whether you are having green leaf cover, but the satellite image is not translating the effect of the climate change. So effectively, they will end up adding carbon dioxide if not taken care of well, the climate change. So these things the author has highlighted that these are qualitative issues. Suggestion comes for the storage first, because storage is very low, where we are talking about 300 odd gigawatt storage, we have hardly 500 megawatt of storage. So first thing, storage and pumped hydro. Then coal transition roadmap, as we know that coal transition roadmap has to be drawn. It should not be abrupt because of several reasons, intermittency of the renewable energy sources, dependent population on coal. So you need to have a transition roadmap. It should not be abrupt. Next is focus on natural regeneration and biodiversity conservation rather than monoculture, that is plantation. You brought a species, you did the plantation without understanding the ecology. Then center state and interministerial coordination for grid expansion, land acquisition and transmission, so that the installed capacity can be utilized properly, plus new capacity can be brought in with efficiency. Then comes the sector wise and region wise emissions tracking, so that sectoral analysis will be there. It should not be led by one sector that solar energy is doing good, rest everything you can ignore. So sector wise analysis and policy should be there. Then again, the quality versus quantity. You should shift focus from just adding to actually producing clean electricity continuously and bringing down total emission in real terms. So these are the suggestion for the future or the achieving the climate targets. Based on this, this is your practice question, that India's climate action under the Paris Agreement has shown notable progress in emission intensity reduction. However, these achievements have not translated into a decline in absolute emission or reduced dependence on coal-based baseload power. Examine. You need to examine this statement, you need to give arguments in favor, argument against, and you need to provide a way forward. This is a 15-marker question, 250 word, try to attempt it. The first article in the simplified section is related to latest demolition drive which was conducted by Delhi Municipal Corporation in and around Turkman Gate, Turkman Gate or Turkman Gate, you can pronunciate it either way. And violence erupted, many people injured and many people were arrested. Relevant from the perspective of history, and we will cover some important aspect related to Turkman Gate. So some brief understanding from the article itself. It was built in 17th century by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, the same person who built Taj Mahal, and also he built a new fortified city, a capital in Delhi, Shah Jahanabad. So if you know, Delhi is known as 7 cities, 7 emperors, 7 different time periods, 7 rulers have established their different cities. So it is 7 cities, we will cover that. And this Turkman Gate is named after a Sufi saint, that is Shah Turkman Bayabani. Shah Turkman Bayabani, he was a Sufi saint. He was not contemporary of Shah Jahan, we will cover that also. And another important thing is that this Turkman Gate is having the grave of this Sufi saint, as well as Razia Sultan, the 13th century ruler of the slave dynasty or Mamluk dynasty. So burial of Razia Sultan is beside the shrine of this Sufi saint, and this was also important from the modern India perspective. In 1857, British authorities demolished section of the city walls and on either side of the gate. Plus, during emergency also, this place, the population living beside this gate, protested against the modification or the encroachment drive of the government. Important from your examination perspective, the 7 cities. First was Lal Kot or Kila Rai Pithora. So firstly, the Tomar Rajput dynasty, which was dethroned by Prithviraj Chauhan. So it was founded by, the Lal Kot was founded by the Tomar dynasty, but Rai Pithora was fully developed and established by Prithviraj Chauhan. So the first city, first fortified city, Kila Rai Pithora, was developed by Prithviraj Chauhan. If it is Lal Kot, it is Anangpal Tomar II. Then the second city, second fortified city is Mehroli in and around Qutub Minar, initiated by Qutbuddin Aibak, and several monuments have been completed by several sultans and rulers at different point of time. Siri, again a fortified city, Alauddin Khalji. Then Tughlaqabad and Jahanpana. Consider it as one because Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq is attributed to develop Tughlaqabad, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq is attributed to Jahanpana. So almost similar time, and Tughlaqabad was the main city. Then Firoz Shah Tughlaq established Firozabad. Then Deen Panah, which was initiated by Humayun, but Shergarh, which or the Purana Killa, which was completed by and renamed by Sher Shah Suri. And lastly, Shah Jahanabad, that is Shah Jahan, created the Shah Jahanabad, including Red Fort and the Jama Masjid. So Shah Jahan, you know that the full name is Shahabuddin Muhammad Khurram, and Shah Jahan means the king of world. It was title. Father was Jahangir, mother was Jagat Gosaini. Capital was shifted from Agra to Shah Jahanabad. Red Fort, Lal Killa, that he built in Delhi. Another Red Fort is in Agra, which was built by Akbar. Don't get confused. Red Fort in Delhi is built by Shah Jahan. Court language was Persian. Peak Mughal architecture emphasized on symmetry, marble and Pietre Dura. Best example is Taj Mahal. Red Fort, Jama Masjid, Moti Masjid, and from red sand, the building material shifted to white marble. The second important personality that is mentioned in this article is Razia Sultan. Raziat Uddin was the full name. Only women ruler in Delhi Sultanate period who sat on the throne. Slave Mamluk dynasty. Father was Iltutmish. Took actions against the Turkish nobility, Chehalgani, that is a court of 40 people, and elevated Jamal Uddin Yaqut at a prominent position, who was Abyssinian, not a Turk, and that is why the revolt erupted, and she was deposed and killed in Kathal, Haryana. For the Sufi saint, that is Turkman Bayabani, I told you he was not contemporary of Shah Jahan. He died in the same year, in the year in which Razia Sultana died in 1240. He was contemporary of Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki and Iltutmish. He belonged to a Sufi practice who were practicing seclusion and solitude, and that is why the term Biyaban means wilderness, and that is why the title Bayaban, which means wilderness. So that is why the name, the Shah Turkman Bayabani, that one person who is roaming or wandering in wilderness. The next topic of discussion is based on this news article, that census first phase, that is house listing phase, will start from April 1. Now you know that There will be two phases, house listing phase and then the enumeration phase. In house listing phase, basic information related to house, floors, how many people are living, who is owner, how many floors are there, everything will be collected. Then in the next phase, the socio-economic details and demographic related detail will be collected. And timeline is 1st March 2027, where they have to conclude this. Important from GS paper 1, population and associated issues. Important information related to census, exercise done by the union government as listed in the 7th schedule, central government list, union government list, and complete enumeration, size, distribution, socio-economic characteristic, demographic, etc. of a country. Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India under Ministry of Home Affairs is the nodal authority. Conducts census as per the Census Act of 1948, being conducted every 10 years till 2011. So till started in 1872, non-synchronized census. From the first synchronized census was 1881. From 1881 till 2011, India successfully conducted 15 census. From 1881 to 1881 was the first and 2011 was the 15th. What is the important point related to this particular census? It will be the first digital census, plus it will first to enumerate caste in independent India, because in British India, caste was enumerated till 1931. From 1881 to 1931, caste was enumerated. After 1931, caste only SC, STs were enumerated, rest were excluded. But in independent India, this would be the first where everyone will be enumerated as per their caste. Now, significance lies in the women reservation, because the 33% reservation in Parliament and State Assembly is linked to this census. Once it will be done, then only delimitation can be done based on this new census, because the 84th Amendment, which came in 2002, extended the freezing of delimitation till the 2026. So it says that the first census after 2026, the delimitation will be based on that particular census, and that is why the 2027 census would be the first census. Ideally, it should be 2021 census, then 2031 census. But now, because it has been delayed for 5 years, 2027 census will be the first census after 2026, based on which delimitation will be done. The next news article is related to ISRO's new launch of Earth observation satellite, important from the perspective of GS paper 3, awareness in the field of space. Now, Indian Space Research Organization is readying itself for the first launch of 2026. Which is EOS N1, that is Earth Observating Satellite N1. It has not delved much into the information, but ISRO has made it clear that it would be built for a strategic purpose. So basically understand that the Earth observation satellite are used to observe the place on Earth, or you can say a region on Earth, and giving the information back to the center. So basically observation of Earth landscape, atmosphere, biosphere, lithosphere and ocean, and giving it back to the observer or receiving center. Now, Earth observing satellite, they mainly follow synchronous and sub-recurrent orbit. What is this? Sun synchronous, just understand the basic difference. This is in sync. The sun synchronous orbit is in sync with sun. So understand this with one example. So let's say sun is, the sunlight that you are facing at 1 p.m. Same time this satellite will be above you, taking picture of you. Very next day, again the sunlight will come at 1 p.m. This satellite will also come at 1 p.m. So it is in sync with the sun position. So basically angle doesn't change. So every day the same time satellite will be at the same place covering the same location. Next is sub-recurrent. This is similar to sun synchronous. So same time, same place, but at a interval. So I am visiting the same place at 1 p.m. but after 10 days. So every 10 days I am standing taking a picture. This is a difference between sun synchronous. So sun synchronous daily basis, same time, same place. Sun recurrent, same place, same time, but at an interval. Maybe it is 10, 5, 4, 15, anything. So it is possible to observe the same region at a fixed interval, as the incidence of angle of sunlight on the earth's surface is almost constant and in synchronous and sub-recurrent orbit. So same place can be observed on different days. So any change on different days can be immediately observed and can be relayed to the source station that this has been changed from previous day. So this is what is important from the perspective of prelims. The next news article is related to Judges Inquiry Act of 1968 and GS paper 2 judiciary, because you know there was a disagreement, there was a motion to remove Justice Verma, and the motion was presented or was brought in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, but due to the resignation of Vice President, the acting chairman, the acting vice chairman, deputy chairman, he rejected the motion and Lok Sabha speaker admitted the motion. Now based on this, Justice Verma challenged the creation of inquiry committee. He said there is a provision which we will cover which bars speaker to create a inquiry committee. So Supreme Court has said that we do not agree with this logic and we will look into other matters. So what is the matter? Just understand this. This is the original text of the Judges Inquiry Act. Here you can see that the procedure, as we know, procedure is very simple. First see that procedure. So if you want to remove a judge from Supreme Court or High Court, 100 member in Lok Sabha or the lower house, or 50 members in case of Rajya Sabha or the upper house had to brought in a motion. This motion will be admitted or rejected by speaker or chairman respectively. Now once this is admitted, speaker or chairman, whosoever is the authority, will constitute an inquiry committee which will include Chief Justice or Judge of Supreme Court, Chief Justice of High Court and a distinguished jury, 3-member committee. Then this committee will investigate. If they will find judge guilty of misbehavior or incapacity, the motion will be taken up for voting. If they will find it not guilty, then motion ends there. But anyhow, they will submit the report to speaker or chairman. Then speaker will put it in front of, will table it in the house, and then by special majority, that is majority of the total membership of house, or majority not less than 2/3 of the member of house are present, who are present and voting, it will be passed. Now there is another provision. If, read it here, if notice of motion is presented or given on the same day in both the house. Let's say it is Monday, both the house given the motion. In that case, there should be a joint committee, because motion has been given in both the house and admitted in both the house in same day. So there shall be a joint committee created by speaker and chairman. Now this provision was challenged by the Justice Verma, because he said that motion was submitted on the same day. He was correct in that. He said Rajya Sabha rejected the motion while Lok Sabha accepted, and Lok Sabha speaker unilaterally created the committee, which according to constitution is wrong thing to do. It should be null and void. To which Supreme Court said that yes, the process says that there shall be a joint committee, but court said that where is the bar under the provision? If admitted, if motion is admitted, joint committee should be there. If not admitted, there is silence in the provision. So judges said, observed that nowhere this article is saying that if motion is rejected, you cannot make a unilateral committee. So basically, judges are understanding the intent of the subject. They are saying, since they have not explicitly mentioned that if rejected, you cannot make any committee, it means they wanted to go ahead with the constitution of committee, and that is why court said that we are not going to entertain this plea. However, you have questioned that this is infringement of your fundamental right. We will see to that question, that how it is impacting your fundamental right. But so speaker constituting a committee is correct. So this is the issue which was raised and which was rejected by Supreme Court. Moving to the last article of today's session is related to silver price, which saw an uptick in 2025, more than 160% it grew. Important from the prelims perspective, economy, recent developments, and author says that there was a 160+% rise in 2025, and which continues in 2026 with 7% rise further. And he kind of compares gold with silver. He says that since both are similar, used in jewelry, and both are considered safe, basically the volatility in the market, investors' confidence was dented due to trade war and tariff war. So people wanted to put their money into a safe asset, because there was US Federal Reserve interest rate were cut also. So the return on deposits and bonds were not that high. Tariff war was there, uncertainty in the market was there. So investor wanted to put their money into an asset which is more reliable. So they put money in the gold. This is what is true for the silver also. But there are certain things which are different, which also contributed to the rise in demand of silver, because silver is inherent, it has an inherent physical property which make it a key component in the manufacturing of batteries and solar panel. First thing, it is also a very important input in artificial intelligence agency, where it is used to prepare smart grid infrastructure and data transmission. Plus the additional, as we know, jewelry and coins, that is important, that is there. Further, he says that US and China are mainly responsible for this uptick in the price, because supply silver is not something which you can find as a unique mineral, standalone mineral. It is a byproduct. So other minerals are mined, silver supply will be there. But this time what happened, silver supply did not match the demand. Additionally, silver was included in a list that is like critical mineral list. So once you will add a mineral into critical mineral list, that means government protection will increase, tariff may go down, may go up, government will try to protect these minerals. So these things contributed to uptick the price of the mineral, and due to inclusion of silver into the critical mineral list, people started stockpiling the silver. Plus, new rare metal export restriction China brought in this tariff war and trade war fight. This also skewed or kind of dented the supply of silver in the market. This again contributed to the high demand, low supply and high prices of silver. Moving further, this supply demand mismatch. So generally the global price of the metal are decided in London market. So shortage of actual physical silver in London by October led to price skyrocketing. So you can see here where it went up till 2,46,889. if you will see January 1, 2026, starting from 85,000 from January 1. So almost 160% rise in the prices. Lastly, there was a FOMO effect, fear of missing out. So what happened? Lack of resources, high demand, price were rising. So investors had this fear of missing out. They wanted to ride the same bus. They wanted to buy more metal so that they can also make profit out of it. So everyone is buying, price is rising. So everyone was trying to put in their money so that they can benefit from the trade. Now, this is not just true for the gold or silver. Author says that commodities in general were on the rise, like copper. It has also seen a price which crossed $12,000 a ton for the first time. So this is a general trend where metal and minerals are seeing an uptick in their prices, mainly because of uncertainty in the global trade affairs, and people want to invest in more stable and reliable assets. So that is all for today's session. Stay tuned. Thank you.